Constance Wu, when did you know that the Crazy Rich Asians film would be so important?
I think after doing Fresh Off the Boat, my TV show on ABC, after doing that for several years and going through the process of when that premiered, I knew that Asian Americans were an underserved audience and that they were really hungry for content. So I think doing that TV show really primed me for what would happen with Crazy Rich Asians because again, we don't have any Hollywood films that center an Asian American experience. So I kind of knew that like people wanted to see it.
And do you feel like after all these years, you're kind of tired about talking about Asian representation, or do you feel like this is actually now something that you're really good at?
I think anything when you do it a lot, you get better at it. I guess I try to think of it not as like something that's tiresome, but as like an extraordinary privilege and opportunity that I get to speak about something that's really important to myself and to a lot of people, and that I'm in the position where I can do that without too much fear because I'm, pretty comfortable with my network show. Um, so yeah, it's just a good opportunity, and so I wanted to take that opportunity and sort of use it for good.
So you've done network television for a number of years, and you've also guest starred on other shows and done indies. What was different about doing a big studio film?
Well, actually, Crazy Rich Asians is my first ever studio movie. Like, I haven't even had like one line in a studio movie. I did like an extra work when I was like 15, but that's it. Um, I think the difference for me was just, I guess, the concept of carrying a movie. That's that was different and a great challenge. You just really have to balance a lot of things and make sure like the journey is complete. Um, but acting is acting at the end of the day. So I try to just stick with character work and story, and hopefully um, all my collaborators, everybody else who works in the film, will all together make it great.
What did you learn about acting from Michelle Yeoh?
What did I learn about acting from her? I don't know. I didn't really think of her as a mentor. I kind of felt, to be honest, I felt like she was like a colleague, or if not that, just like from a very different world. She has done these incredible like martial arts movies, and like she's been a Bond girl, and I've been like schlepping it doing a community theater since I was 10. I've never done anything that's even slightly action related, or even beauty related, actually. So if I did learn, what I did learn from her is like sort of like how to compose yourself during a press tour, because she's very good at that, and that was really new to me. I'd never done a press junket before, so navigating that with her was really helpful.
You've said that you were a fan of Jon Chu before this movie and that you're excited that he was going to be directing it. What would you say distinguishes him as a director?
I think he has vision, and he understands movement. Why he's done such cool dance movies. Um, and he's like tireless. He could be running on like 3 hours of sleep and still be the same like captain of the ship, and is like uncompromising and getting the right shot how he wants it. But he does it like with a lot of grace too. So he's really special.
So this one is based on the series of books. How did you put your stamp on the character of Rachel to kind of differentiate it from what was on the page in the novel?
I did a lot of work on that actually. Rachel's kind of the portal through which everything is seen, kind of like this character of like Stingo in Sophie's Choice, or Nick Carraway in The Great Gatsby. But I wanted to make it a little more personal um, for her. So me and John and Adele really talked about identity as Asian Americans and what it means when you don't feel like you completely belong in America, but then you go to Asia and you think you might this recognition, but then when Asian Asian people sort of dismiss you or judge you as other. It's just this weird in-between place where I think independence really comes into play because it's harder to find community. And so I wanted to make sure that Rachel Rachel had that, and that, you know, she's just in love with her boyfriend.
Why do you think she's so clueless about her boyfriend and his family?
This is a question that a lot of people have asked. They're like, how is this possible? Well, in the book, Nick's family is so wealthy that they're like not even like Googleable, and they're so wealthy that they don't even appear on those lists, those Forbes lists, because when you're that wealthy, you're very private. And the way that I thought about it was, you know, it's not a good look to just tell somebody you're dating, like, hey, by the way, like, I'm super rich. Like, that would have kind of made him seem like an asshole. And he wants to be loved for who he is. So he doesn't think that money defines him. So he doesn't really talk about it. And I think that's something really nice about Nick.
So you're shooting the two Crazy Rich Asian sequels together, I understand. Do you have a schedule for that?
Oh, well, I didn't know we're shooting them together.
Okay, that's what I heard Michelle Yeoh tell us in another interview.
Oh, okay. She's probably right. She's probably a little more involved in like, uh, you know, wanting to put her stamp on the next two movies. But schedule-wise, I guess that would depend on, you know, if I have to go back to do season 6 of Fresh Off the Boat. And we don't know any of that yet. And I know that next year Jon is shooting In the Heights, the Lin-Manuel Miranda movie. So he's shooting that pretty much all year. So next year is probably not going to be when we shoot it, but the following year, 2020, perhaps. But, you know, we'll see.
So you're still on Fresh Off the Boat every week. It's in its 5th season now, airing on Fridays, and you're going to be filming the Crazy Rich Asian sequels. Is there talk about, you know, a series finale to Fresh Off the Boat, or any kind of end game there?
I don't know. I really trust our writers and stuff, so I try not to I don't get too involved, you know. I just try to do the best with the awesome content that they give me. And we don't know if this is going to be the end of it or if we are going to get picked up for another season. I mean, they still have me for like another 2 years if they want me, you know, and I'm 100% there. So I think it'll just depend on how the ratings are this year. And then we'll just sort of go from there.
Jessica, she had a much thicker accent as it started, and it kind of lessened as the show goes on. How much of that was a conscious choice, and why did you choose to portray her that way?
I mean, she definitely still has an accent. I think it's a combination of things. But I think it was my comfort level with it has gotten a little better. And I think that's interesting because it parallels with what an immigrant's comfort level might be when they first arrive. I mean, the longer you're exposed to something, the better you get at it. So in that sense, like, I'm really glad that it kind of suits the story, and her accent, I think, is one of the most like important features to me of her. I know other people think that it's shameful to have an accent, but I think that's dictated by dismissive stories of the past that weren't told by Asians. There's nothing shameful about an accent. It means you know 2 languages. And I think the beautiful thing about Jessica is she has an accent that other people, her kids, are ashamed of, that other people think she should be ashamed of. But Jessica's core is that she thinks just because she has an accent doesn't mean she doesn't have a right to have her voice and her story be front and center. And a lot of people wouldn't want her to have a story because they want to be represented as cool Asians, not Asians with accents. And she thinks that the fact that she knows 2 languages and is willing to speak her mind, that is cool. And I think instead of using old standards of what's considered a cool accent and what's not, I think projects like Fresh Off the Boat are creating our own standards. So I would never ever take away her accent, and I think it's one of the best parts of her. And I'm so lucky that I get to play a character like that.
She's gone through a career changes, but are there other changes in her characterization that you would not have expected that you would make over the years that you have?
Yeah, well, I mean, last season she kind of became a novelist. I like a horror novelist, like Stephen King kind of stuff. That is a direction I never would have expected because she she's not too keen on creative pursuits. You know, she likes practical, functional things that will generate income, right? But I think it's also a nice touch just because it shows another side of her. So that was really surprising. But you know, from the beginning, the writing staff has made sure that she has like a multifaceted character. So sure, if you just look at a trailer or a sizzle reel, it might seem like, oh, she has just the loudest attributes about herself. But if you actually pay attention to her journey and you actually watch a full episode, I mean, there's so much in there. It's just we live in, you know, a highlight reel kind of era. But but yeah, they do a lot of great things with her.
Have you ever been to the Fresh Off the Boat fandom wiki website and looked at the page for Jessica Huang where it goes into her criminal record?
No, I didn't even know what that is.
It's a fan site, but it goes through and it says Jessica is officially a criminal and has committed many crimes through all 4 seasons. And then it goes into vehicular assault, fraud, false impersonation, passive electioneering, neglectful parenting, breaking raffle, unlawful eviction, destruction of personal property, and so on and so forth.
That's all true, actually, and I didn't even know that this website existed, but it's funny. It's totally true. She's a rebel.
Every year you've been nominated for the Critics' Choice Award for lead actress in a comedy series, and you've been nominated 4 times, and you're now the only person to have been nominated for 4 lead Critics' Choice Awards without getting nominated for an Emmy. So how do you feel about that, and why has it never shown up, the Emmy nomination?
Oh, I didn't know that. I wish I knew that answer. Well, the Critics' Choice Awards it's a critics award, right? The Emmys are a peer award. So the selection committee is like not just critics, but it's your peers. It's like people in the industry. And there have been such terrific women in the past several years in comedy that it's like a wealth of women to choose from. And if it's having to do with peers, I mean, like a few years ago, I was a waitress. You know, I don't really know anyone in the industry. And I'm kind of shy when it comes to that kind of stuff too. So maybe I'm just like not social enough. Maybe I'm not as active in that sense. I mean, I'm not great at like networking and like going to parties. And some people are really good at that because it's like intuitive to them. So I think, you know, the more I get comfortable being in Hollywood, I guess, the more peers I will have. And then peer awards nominations maybe will happen, maybe they won't.
Do you feel like as you, I guess, get more famous and you have, you know, a movie that's grossed hundreds of millions of dollars, do you think that you'll be less or more vocal about issues? I feel like you spoke up more about Casey Affleck than anyone, which...
Well, I spoke out about the Academy nominating him before Me Too and before any of this kind of stuff. And, you know, it's definitely important for me to be vocal. In that case, it was specifically important because nobody else was talking about it. And I wasn't targeting Casey Affleck. I think he did a phenomenal job. But I think that any artistic awarding committee should engage in responsible curation. I mean, his performance will be good, no matter if he gets an award or not. It's not a deprivation to not get an Oscar nomination. But as a committee, you should understand that the choices you make reflect the values that we think our culture holds. And little kids see that and they follow suit. So I think responsible curation isn't necessarily about saying who's the best, because all art is subjective. And in any year, there's more than 5 great actors. There are hundreds in like little indies or foreign films. And just like responsible curation is a thing that I don't think we should do out of duty. I think we should do because it's great. It's great for all of us. It's great for our emotional health and our sense of community. So that's what I was talking about, not specifically Casey. And now the conversation has opened up a lot because of like Harvey Weinstein and Me Too and Time's Up, which I'm a part of. And so I don't feel as obligated to do it because it's happening. And I'm so excited about that. And I want to be one part of a larger voice for that. But if it was something that I thought was really important to me and that nobody was paying attention to, then of course, like as my fame increases, if it does, then I would definitely use my platform to advocate for people whose voice isn't being heard.
All right. Thanks very much, Constance. What can we look forward to seeing you in next?
Season 5 of Fresh Off the Boat. I'm doing that for a while, so